I know I'm pretty much in the minority for this, I am well aware, but I have to admit when I first saw the teaser trailer for The Wild Robot, I was not interested at all. I think there's a couple of reasons for this. One, the teaser trailer that I remember seeing, it was very much like just a quick little like 30, 60-second thing. No one really talked. It wasn't clear what the plot was, and it just didn't interest me from that seeing that. Second, and I'm sure this is the biggest reason, I don't like WALL-E, the movie, the Pixar movie. I know again I'm in the minority on that, but it's just not my favorite movie. I feel like even as a child I had existential dread enough to not enjoy a movie where it's like, hey, look how bad the future looks for so much of it. So seeing a movie where it was like robot, didn't talk originally, and the child in me reared its ugly head real quick and was like, no, we are not watching a movie about another robot that does not speak. But then, cut to a few months later when I saw the actual full trailer for the movie, I was really, really excited. I hadn't heard anything about it. I knew it was a book, but I didn't know what the book was about. But I just kept falling in love with like the animation, the storytelling I felt was really, really beautiful. And there was just something about it that drew me to it. I feel like animation as a whole is suffering lately. Even though we're getting some of the best stories we've ever gotten, they're getting cut, like the studios and the people that create these, even with Wild Robot, which is a great movie. This is the last movie I believe that DreamWorks is making in-house. For cost reasons, they're going to get rid of a lot of people that worked on this movie and that love this movie, and I feel like seeing this movie compared to a lot of the animated movies that we get nowadays, you can tell the care and the love that went into this, and it absolutely reads in seeing the movie. So I was really, really excited to check it out. I just thought the story sounded so interesting, and like I said, the animation. Particularly, I remember the thing that stuck out to me was the fire that we saw in the trailer and obviously in the movie too, but I just remember like how well and detailed that looked, and I just loved it. So getting to see the movie, I was pumped. It was a total 180. It went from like, I don't want to see this movie with the teaser trailer to now I hope this movie is good or else I will be crushed. Going into it, I saw that the reviews were pretty good for it and everything, and like I said, I had not read the book, so I didn't fully know what the story was going to be about. One thing I really liked about it was, well, there's a bunch of things that I liked about it, but one thing that sticks out in my mind mostly is I liked that there weren't a lot of humans. Like, there was a brief scene with humans, but mainly it really focused on Roz and then all the animals in the forest she lived in. And I really liked the little details. I think the beginning scene with her acclimating and adjusting to this world was so funny, and just constantly like getting beat up, getting knocked down, and having to rise up above that. I like that it wasn't like a smooth sailing thing of like she didn't automatically know what she was supposed to be doing or even how to talk to these people. Like, I like that addition of just her taking the time to analyze the surroundings and learn the language and explaining that, how she could talk to all these animals and understand their language instead of just being like, she can just know their language, guys. You know, like, I feel like there's detail in it that really went into that. And I liked the idea of nature and parenthood, specifically motherhood, that was portrayed through Roz and through the forest that she lived in. I particularly liked, like, in the beginning, seeing the distrust that the animals had for Roz, as she's not someone from here, even as she's offering help and offering to try and, you know, assist them in any way she can. They didn't trust her because she wasn't from their world. I think there were just a lot of themes that I love. Particularly, I mentioned it, but motherhood, parenthood, I think was really great, of seeing her bond with Brightbeak and how that relationship developed and how the relationship with Fink also developed. I think this is another movie that also shows why it is important to get voice actors. And I know, again, a lot of them are famous actors, but a lot of them, like Matt Berry, Mark Hamill, are known for like being very good voice actors. And I think there's been talk lately about how a lot of Mario Garfield, a lot of animated movies are just picking like big names to get them in and not really caring about the craft that goes into being a voice in an animated movie, because that in itself is like a role. People think it's easier maybe because it's like you're not actually seeing the person, but in some ways that's harder because it's like you have to emote so much through just your voice alone, and it can't just be like, oh, we want you to be Aquafina, for example, who's in like every single animated movie but never really does anything with the characters because they're always so one-dimensional of what she plays with. I think seeing like Mark Hamill, Matt Berry, Lupita Nyong'o, Kit Connor, Pedro Pascal, Stephanie Hsu, like they were all just amazing and really like sold the performances. And when you watch a movie like this, you see why it's important to get actors who can convey that emotion and are not just like playing themselves, essentially, right? Like just their voices, and it's like you feel like you're just watching them in a movie. Like, I was fully transfixed with this movie, feeling like I'm in the forest with them watching everything. And I particularly really liked, I don't know why, I thought for sure based on the trailer that the scene that was gonna get me, and it was pretty obvious that it was leading up towards it for a majority of the movie, was when Roz has to leave or is forced to leave or something like that. I thought that scene was gonna get me, and that was really heartbreaking. But what made me sob more than anything, and I think this will show like the age of like what will affect you in different ways depending on like how old you are when you watch this. I was so moved and so teary by the scenes they showed where Roz and Bright Bill were kind of at odds because he was trying to literally spread his wings and fly, and she was not wanting to hold him back, but was, you know, worried and scared because it's like she's his mom and he's her boy, and like he has this thing that he doesn't quite fit in with everyone, and she wants everyone to accept him and love him, but he's still got to go off on his own and again spread his wings and make his own way. And that just juxtaposition of like wanting to hold on to someone so tight because they're getting older and knowing that like they're gonna start hanging out with you less and going out and doing their own things more and developing more of like their own interests and stuff, and you don't get a say in it. You don't really get to be like, hey, I want to be around you, and it makes you hold on tighter in some ways. That just really got me. I've always been a nostalgic bitch. Like, that's not anything surprising. I remember in like middle school, I cried because I was like, the next time I'm gonna have a graduation like this, it'll be when I'm going off to college. And I was like so sad about it, and like it so affected me. So I've just always been someone that is like, thinks of like the future and like how that's like, so it's not even like, oh, enjoy the moment you have now. I'm like, but what about when they're not here? So like seeing her struggle to let him go, and even as she did, but like just be there so quickly for any fall that he had, was really like touching to me, because I feel like that's what I relate to the most, of like just wanting to hold on but knowing like you have to let go. And I feel like we got to see all of the journey really of parenthood, motherhood specifically, in this movie, of Roz first of all not really wanting him, like not understanding like what's going on, and only really taking him because it's her task, her goal, that she's told she has to raise him and get him to fly south for the winter. But then realizing like she has come to care for him and really loved him, and he's kind of her everything, and then realizing someone who's your everything, their world is going to get bigger and you're going to be important to them still, but you're just not going to be everything like they are to you. And that whole journey and realization of that, I think, was just so well done and so touching, like I said, because I love the little moments too of like when she was kind of just trying to do stuff to get like shelter, like the basic needs of just like, you need, like, we need this, so I'm gonna make this, right? But then it's like he keeps trying to help because he wants to help, because he's a little bird and wants to help. And she even says it one way specifically where she's like, he's not very good at helping, and in fact when I do let him help, it seems to make tasks that are quick take longer. And they're like, yeah, that's kind of what kids do. And then we even see that later where she's trying to build them like a stick cabin and everything, and he keeps finding like the smallest little sticks to give her that are clearly ineffectual in helping this thing. Like, she could just get the giant logs herself and make it, but she reaches down because it's important to him to be able to help. And I just think it was little moments like that that were really touching. I love Kit Connor. I feel like he did a really good job, and I would love to see him in more stuff. Catherine O'Hara as the possums. The possums were honestly my favorite. I just love when she was like, I have 7 kids, and then like you hear like a bear and she's like, 6. And then like later in the scene, one of the possums is like, it's okay, Mom, I'm still alive. Like, I just like that they didn't shy away from the brutality of nature, and I feel like that's realistic and makes it so it doesn't feel like you're like pandering or like being like, hey kids, like the world's all rainbows and daisies, because it's not. And there's a way to teach kids that without scaring them, but also, one, explaining it to them, because it's like that is kind of how it is, and then 2, there's kids that it's not all rainbows and daisies for them, and it never has been, and they deserve to see a realistic version, and not just like the like everyone thinks great, everyone accepts her super quickly and it's all great. And I feel like they did a really good job of portraying that, of being like these animals are at each other's throats for a majority of it till they have a thing to unite them and go against. And I feel like seeing them rally around Roz, and also Fink as a character who's someone who acts like he doesn't want love, acts like he's above it all and is too good for that and is just better, you know, like better on my own. opening up without even like saying it, that he's like found a family, and defending Roz and being like, you know, she does so much for you guys and no one ever thanks her, like you just use her. And even his relationship with Breitbart I thought was really cool, because I think he understood it a little bit more of like he's gotta fly and go on his own, but he knew it was hard for her. And just Roz in general, like I don't know if they'll make a sequel, and I don't know if it'll be as good, considering again it will probably be like different animators and stuff like that. But I do love the decision she made of like, she went back to protect them. She has her memories, but she went back to protect them. And I love that it ended on a happy-ish note. Like, yes, she's not with her friends, but I think the implication is definitely that she could get back there if she wanted to. And she did get to see Bright Bill again, which was really, really nice. So I really loved it. I was so impressed because I had high expectations for it, and it surpassed that. Like, the animation, gorgeous. I also love that, like, life itself was kind of like the obstacle. Like, we had Stephanie Hsu play that character who was trying to get Roz back ever so briefly, but I just like that the conflicts were kind of bigger than that. It was kind of like, how can we survive? How can we do this and this in a world that is so harsh with nature? Like, we saw the snowstorm, we saw the fire, we saw even her just trying to get Bright Bill and his whole struggle with his wings, since he was the runt of the litter and wouldn't have survived. I also thought it was such a move to make it so Roz is the one, even unintentionally, that kills Bright Bill's mom, and also not have that be something that is like held to like the last third act. Like, I like that it came out so soon, so then it felt realistic when they had time to deal with it, and it wasn't just like, oh, I find out this thing and then I'm over it 5 minutes later. Like, it felt more realistic. And then I feel like the catch with that also was like, he was the runt, and they were like, you wouldn't have survive. So it's not like it's like better or worse, but it's like the world you imagine with your family being alive if Roz hadn't killed them again accidentally is not a world you would have been alive in. So I think that is just like, again, it's brutal, but they didn't shy away from it. And I definitely think it felt more realistic. Like, him finding out that this is a thing that happened and then having a whole third act of the movie to deal with it. He literally goes on a journey away from her around the world and comes back to her, and I really, really loved it. So I think it's just such a feel-good movie, again, that like doesn't shy away from the harsh realities of it, of like the struggle she has to fit in, the struggle she has to raise him, and then how that changes into the struggle of wanting to hold on when he's ready to fly his wings and she's scared and everything like that. And also all the struggles the characters had to get along with each other, think, and fitting in with everyone, and admitting that it's okay to need people and love people and expect something of people, I think was just so great. And then it was like action-y at the end with the fight when all the animals were trying to rally around her and hold off the robots that were coming to take her back. I just think it was such a well done story, and so easy to understand across generations. Like, I think every age that watches it will take something different from it and relate something different to it, and that's kind of great, because it's like you could watch this when you're a kid, and then 10 years later when you're an adult or you're going into college for the first time, you could watch it and get something different. I can watch this maybe when I'm a grandparent and get something different of it, and it's that kind of movie that changes the more you watch it and the more you add from your life experience. And I think that is just astounding in this day and age when so many movies are just cash grab sequels, prequels, some kind of adaptation of something. This was based on a book, but it clearly was based on a book that someone really cared about and cared about telling the story about. And I think that's the best kind of thing, when you can see the craft and love that someone puts into something they're making. And the fact that this is a book now that I can go check out and get even more of is just really exciting. So yeah, if you have seen the movie, let me know what you thought about it down below in the comments. Also, make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!